End of a great day's racing at Donington. Maybe the climax of a great day's racing is the reverse grid race, round 24 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Certainly a long day in the commentary box. Tim Harvey has got more and more controversial as the day has gone on, but at least he's got David Addison alongside.
Well, let's see what we can do with him for one more race then, because if anything is going to kick off, it's race 3 for touring cars, isn't it?
The still small voice of calm, David. I'm glad to have you alongside me. What could possibly go wrong in a reverse grid of 12 at the for Donington Grand Prix circuit? I'm hoping for a great race, and I promise not to be too controversial.
Fantastic. Now, we've already got Aidan Moffat starting from the pit lane with a fire extinguisher drama, so he was going to be near the back of the grid anyway, but he will have to start when allowed, either from the pits itself or at the very back of the grid. So for the moment, there is a hole on that grid. It is 14 laps once again. Dan Lloyd is the man on pole position. Green flag wave. Let's look at the grid then. Dan Lloyd starting on pole with Tom Chilton alongside him at the front. Then on the second row, it's going to be Aaron Taylor-Smith and Adam Morgan. That's Aidan Moffat, who I think is going to be allowed to join at the very back as the cars go past him down to Redgate. So row 1 is Dan Lloyd and Tom Chilton. Row 2 is Aaron Taylor-Smith and Adam Morgan. Then it's Rory Butcher and Dan Rowbottom on the third row. Ricky Collard next with Josh Cook for company ahead of Colin Turkington. 9th, Jake Hill, his teammate 10th. Ash Sutton and Tom Ingram lock out the 6th row. Next comes Stephen Jelly on his home circuit. Ronan Pearson with him. Then Sam Osborne ahead of Andrew Watson. Mikey Doble next with Dexter Patterson ahead of Michael Crease and Nick Halstead 20th. 21st, Jade Edwards, then George Gamble. Aidan Moffat should have been 23rd, but will start from the rear. Daryl DeLeon is there, and next to complete the grid is Jack Butel. So the cars now down to the old hairpin, and as the field accelerates out of the old hairpin towards Schwantz Curve, 14 laps beckon for us. Before we go racing, let's try and have a quick word with Colin Turkington. Colin, it's going to be hard work, this, isn't it? 9th on the grid, and it's been a frustrating day, I guess, really, not having that last 10th of pace, it seems.
Yeah, it's always hard work, David. It's yeah, the day's been improving. Left with a bit of pace in the wet, I would say, but quite good in race 2. So hopefully we've nudged the car in the right direction, and we can be even quicker this time.
Where's the BMW strongest around here? Because it's fascinating as ever to see rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive.
We've seen quite good, in my car anyhow, we've seen quite good through the old hairpin and the S's, you know, so the high-speed chicane. Yeah, that seems to be where I was quite quick in race 2. So, yeah, maybe not as quick as I'd like to be off the hairpins, but yeah, maybe this time.
Now we know where to look. Colin, good luck, we'll leave you to it. So, cars down towards the Grand Prix loop. Of course, Toyota at home circuit, effectively, and a good result would be great news for Toyota. It would also be a real boost for Christian Dick's team. His father-in-law, Richard Lee, confined to barracks after recent illness. Get well soon. And One Motorsport also missing regular team member Peter Laybourne, who's looking after his father Mal, who is ready for a major operation. So Peter, we look forward to you being back in the paddock, and Mal Laybourne get well soon as well.
Yeah, interesting to hear Colin talking about where his car was strong and not so strong, because traditionally off the hairpins is where BMWs have been strong. You think of places like Croft and Knock Hill, yet it appears this circuit, which was thought to be going in favour of the rear-wheel drive cars because of the high traction zones, doesn't appear to be working for them.
Indeed, yes. In terms of hybrid allocation, of course, it is the full 8 laps for those at the pointy end of the grid. 7 laps for Rowbottom, 6 for Collard, 5 for Cook, 4 for Turkington, 3 for Hill, 2 for Sutton, 1 for Ingram, and then behind those drivers, the rest of the grid outside of the top 12 reverse, all on the maximum 8 laps as well. No option tyre to worry about here. It's been the medium compound as the only slick available, other than, of course, the variable of the wet from earlier on in the day. Right then, to the grid they come. I managed to lay off getting you to do a prediction for most of the weekend, but you've not escaped totally, Harvey.
Oh, well, I like the way you've chosen the most difficult race to predict.
Come on.
Is that considered not in the pit box?
Tom Chilton.
Tom Chilton's not in the pit box. He's moving now, and I see Sam Riches on the start line. He's actually having to reverse his Chilton look to get into the right position. He lined up, I think, and he's still maybe ahead of his pit box.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's over that grid box line, isn't he? So already the communication starts. If I were Tom Chilton, I'd be a bit fearful about this. There's Aidan Moffat, who is going to start at the very back then, so he has to give up his grid position, but he is going to be able to start last of all. But I would imagine that we might hear a bit more about Chilton's starting position. Right, last race of the day. Get set for round 24. Lights out, blast off. Good getaway by Lloyd. Good getaway also by Adam Morgan. And he's going to get himself up and alongside Aaron Taylor-Smith on the outside line as they come into Redgate for the first time. Lloyd leads Chilton, and then third is just about everybody. Morgan goes around the outside of ATS. He gets run out wide, and they plunge downhill for the first time.
Yeah, good start by Dan Lloyd. He used his experience. At least he's got through the turn one in the lead and down the Craners. Chilton is in hot pursuit, but as you say, third position was the real battle.
So they make the climb uphill, and Ash Sutton has got a grandstand view of Hill and Turkington going toe-to-toe, mirror to mirror, and almost rubbing as they head up towards Schwantz Curve. Jake Hill on the inside line for Schwantz, but on the inside line for McLean's is Turkington. Rowbottom is ahead of the pair of them. Hill can't go round the outside of him. Turkington gets up the inside of the BMW of Hill, and this is Sutton's view. That's still together, and they are making contact. There's every man for himself again at BMW.
This is what it's like on the first lap of a touring car race. You're in the driver's seat there with championship leader and the two BMWs in front, separated by 6 inches around the first half of the lap.
Fantastic racing then as they come onto the Grand Prix loop for the first time. Go left, go right, down to the Melbourne hairpin. So Lloyd leads the way. Chilton runs second. Third is Aaron Taylor-Smith. Then you've got Rory Butcher ahead of the BMW next in the queue, which is Adam Morgan's car. And Tom Chilton, a 5-second penalty for a false start. He was in advance of his grid box. He gets a 5-second penalty. So we were discussing it at the time. We were right to be fearful. Tom Chilton gets a penalty.
Yeah, he did actually have time to reverse into the right spot. He just didn't reverse far enough.
So he's second on the road, but will tumble. Third on the road, Aaron Taylor-Smith. Battle is on there. Look, Morgan just ahead of Ricky Collard. BMW versus Toyota. And further back, Sutton is 11th, but importantly, he's ahead of Ingram.
Yeah, crucially ahead of Ingram. This is on board. Oh, Turkington just closing the door as they go down the Craner curves in front of Sutton, and up comes Ingram on the inside. A bold move which came off beautifully. Wow, this is a really inspired Ingram.
And behind there is Ronan Pearson, I think, with damage. Look, the bonnet was lifting. You can see in the background, look, on the right side, a pin has come off or wasn't secured. The air is getting under, and so that car may well have to pit. As in the meantime, that's the view. Ronan Pearson with the bodywork lifting as the air gets underneath it.
Yeah, that will definitely result in a pit. Well, if you didn't hear Ash Sutton's interview after race 2, he said he was experiencing a long brake pedal very early in the race and was then managing the brakes all the way through, pumping the pedal. This was the move from Sutton, diving up the inside, and ends up with a contact, but he gives way and allows Turkington to still maintain that position, but slow off the corner, let Ingram get a run at them down into the old hairpin.
Meatball flag for Ronan Pearson with that bonnet set to rip itself off the car if he's not careful. Leaders come up towards the line. Great little battle going on there. Look, you've got Rowbottom at the head of the queue. Jake Hill trying to go around the outside of Josh Cook. So Lloyd leads with 2 laps in the book. Chilton's second on the road. Taylor-Smith third, and he's done the fastest lap of the race. Fourth on the road, Butcher, then Morgan, Collard, Rowbottom, Cook, Hill, Turkington to round out the top 10.
This is on board with Turkington. Josh Cook just in front of him. And you saw the closing speed on the brakes. Pearson is in the pits already, but Chilton still maintaining that position, obviously in second on the road, but has that 5-second penalty.
And it will drop him outside the top 10, although as the race wears on, the gaps will stretch a little bit, so he'll buy back a few places as a result of that. That is Sutton going toe-to-toe with Ingram. Ash to the inside at Schwantz, Tom on the inside at McLean's. Look back then from Turkington's car, there they are, the championship rivals absolutely side by side, and Ingram is not for giving way. Runs Sutton up the curb, Ash on the outside line for Coppis, Tom on the inside, takes the place.
Yeah, still in front, you're never going to get round the outside at Coppis, that's for sure. You have to concede to the inside, but it looks like Sutton's a bit more confident on his brakes this race.
Does, doesn't it? Collard under attack. Thosey flicks onto the Grand Prix loop. Rowbottom making progress. He got up past Cook a lap ago. He wants to get past Collard, but he's got Hill tucked up behind him, and they cross swords in race 1. There's not a lot of love lost between these two, and there's more contact then as they come into the hairpin. Rowbottom not unsettled by that. What it's done is give Turkington a chance to come back at Hill.
Yeah, there's definitely no love lost between Rowbottom and Hill at the moment, and I think that's going to run for the rest of the year. But Hill has to be careful. He wants points.
So Turkington comes over the line, and Dan Lloyd leading the way, hanging on to the advantage then for Team Hard with the Cupra. This is Sutton's View, diving down towards Redgate. Turkington is ahead of Cook now, and Ingram gets up the inside of the One Motorsport Honda as well. Cook again struggling for pace against some of those around him. Ingram trying to prise open the door. Sutton happy for him to do that, and then he hopefully will be able to follow him through.
Yeah, be looking to follow through here. There's a slight touch with Cook that unsettles his car on the brakes. Just that tiny little touch, and that allows Sutton to get the momentum and run through. Cook was trying to get back inside behind Ingram, wasn't he? Eager not to let Sutton through. That little touch just on the brakes. Let the car run on, make the car run on a bit wide.
Now Jake Hill has dropped back a bit from Rowbottom as they come out of Coppice once more. This is lap 4 out of 14. So through Coppice they turn. That's Dan Lloyd, the race leader. Now look behind him, Chilton is coming under attack from Taylor Smith, who is taking Butcher with him. They flick through the S's, absolutely on the limit. You can see the cars dancing there, right up against the tyre stack with Ricky Collard. Sutton's car also a little bit crossed up, and Sam Osborne stayed with them as now Aaron Taylor Smith to the inside, goes through on the inside of Chilton. Door is open, here comes Butcher, gets past 1, almost 2 as he cleared the Vauxhall then. They're going to be side by side on the run up the hill towards Goddard's. Then the inside line is going to be claimed back by Taylor Smith, who brakes late, and he does go back through on the inside. Butcher has to slot in behind him.
Fantastic. Well, they very nearly collected Dan Lloyd, didn't they, as he turned into the corner. And may I say, hats off to Dan Lloyd, because he's led this race in an accomplished fashion so far. And his car through the chicane, he absolutely flung it through that chicane, didn't he? So he's driving the wheels off that Team Hart Cupra to stay in front.
So now Aaron Taylor Smith up into second spot, but for how much longer? Because round the outside goes Butcher, incredibly brave, moving its work. Rory Butcher goes second. Fantastic stuff. So Butcher up into second spot, and Taylor Smith tries to live with him. Adam Morgan is behind Chilton, but remember Chilton has that penalty, so he's going to drop down the order. Lloyd needs to work hard to maintain this lead, although Butcher is still under attack.
Oh yeah, this isn't safe by any stretch of the imagination, and definitely using the hybrid on this lap as well, Butcher.
So the car's looking a lot more racy in this second half of the season, and Rory's had an odd sort of a season. On occasions he looks very anonymous, on other occasions he's been rapid, but he could be on for a race win here, which would be a great boost, as I was saying, pre-race for Toyota at home and for Christian Zick and for the Speedworks family. So this was the move. Flung the car on the inside at Hollywood, round the outside through the Craner curve, absolutely on the edge.
Yeah, and at that point you really don't know as a driver when you're going to end up on the grass or not. You're just praying the car sticks. So yeah, great move by Rory Butcher.
Heading up towards Goddard's then, and this is Ash Sutton's View, staring at the back of Tom Ingram. Turns into Goddard's. Now Dan Lloyd led last time by 1.5 seconds from Butcher, which was first to third. It's 1.7. But now that Rory has a clear road ahead, let's see what he can do to get onto terms with that Cupra. Fastest lap, Jake Hill. Fastest lap now, Stephen Jelly. They matched it, a 1:34.808. The two BMWs to the 1,000th, matching the lap time. And Josh Cook has just come into the pits.
Yeah, incredible. To the 1,000s, Jelly and his teammate Jake Hill, both in the BMWs. But a little bit of a loose headlight there. That won't stop or worry Dan Lloyd.
But what might worry him is the pace of that Toyota behind. That looks like the end of the day for Josh Cook. And bonnet up, so it's engine related.
Yeah, sadly, he didn't need to lose any points in this race, did he? But he has indeed lost points. This pack of cars is so close, aren't they?
Yeah.
At the back of it, there's Sutton, and he's down in 11th place. So that's all the way down from, what is it, from... Well, it's all of them, isn't it? But Dan Lloyd, who has that 1.7 second gap.
Now, Dan Lloyd has 7 laps of hybrid use available, and there with that hill clipping the tyres, lots of debris on the road, others run over it. So the point being for the lead that Lloyd has more hybrid available than the chasing Butcher does. Real concertina coming down towards the Melbourne hairpin. And Jake Hill it was. Look, he has got damage on that right front. Here's the replay. Watch Jake Hill. There he is in the background. And bang, that was a hit.
That was a big hit. And that did a lot of damage. Turkington immediately passed. I'm amazed he hasn't got a puncture. That's really caused a lot of body damage to the front of that car. Amazing, the radiators and everything else still intact. The hybrid radiators are behind that part of the car as well. Look, it's shedding parts as it comes down the straight.
There may well be a time where the race officials say, no, enough is enough shedding bodywork, we need that in. But the circuit very, very littered with debris. Fastest lap, by the way, Ronan Pearson, after his pit stop, a man all fired up, so he's done the fastest lap of the race. He's down in 24th place. Jake Hill going defensive, but you might be thinking now this is rather forlorn hope, given that the car is hobbled. But the people he is trying to defend are Ingram and Sutton, so he needs to keep them at bay.
Yeah, and he will try every trick in the book to stay in front, won't he? Just to have them either fall over each other or potentially just get some points on them if he can stay in front.
So heading up the hill, this is the safety car deployed. Safety car deployed. Now that may well be for the amount of debris on the road, because all it's going to do is risk punctures.
Or even move the tyre stack because it's had such a clouting. Well, the tyre stack's definitely been the winner financially this weekend. It's caused more damage than anything else, hasn't it? Certainly more than the racing has done.
So this is rather bad news for Dan Lloyd, isn't it? Because it takes away a 1.9 second gap over Rory Butcher. Although if he could do it once, maybe he can do it again, because he had extended it by a couple of attempts last time around. There is what's left of Jake Hill's BMW.
Well, I know Jake is one of the smaller stature drivers, but he must have been able to see look how low he sits in the car. He's quite unsighted there at that, you know, from the left-hand side of the car. Let's have another look. Someone clips it there. Then a big hit from one of the other BMWs, actually, but an even bigger hit. It was Morgan that clipped it first, but then an even bigger hit from Jake Hill. But it is difficult sitting low, left-hand side of the car, following another car, to spot that exactly. No one drives into those tyres deliberately.
So Jake Hill's car is at least still in the race. He needs to drag it home and bank some points. The other person that this safety car is rather bad for is Tom Chilton, because with everybody bunched up behind him, it affects where that 5-second penalty drops him.
Yeah, he needs everyone behind as spread out as possible.
Absolutely, not bunch up, which this will do. So there are big chunks of laser tools.
Oh, good kick.
BMW, yeah, excellent that.
We'll get him on the Marshall's football team.
Right, that's cleared some of the circuit. So hopefully it won't be a very long safety car period, and Dan Lloyd needs an excellent restart, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's done so well so far. Really, really impressed with Dan. Obviously been a race winner before in BTCC, but he'd love to do it with Team Hard.
And it will be good for the championship for Team Hard to be victorious as well. Safety car in this time. It's been a slightly tumultuous second half of the season for Tony Dillon's team, what with Bobby Thompson having to stand down, Nicholas Hamilton dropping out of the championship, finding different drivers, bringing Michael Crease back, Jade Edwards moving to another team. So the second half of the season has not been easy. This will be a really popular result for the squad.
It would, and there is Tony in the middle, chewing on the gum to keep his cool. Yeah, we understand that Rob Huff will be back for the last 2 races in the Nick Hamilton car. Certainly hope that's true. Yeah, and lights are out, so we'll be going for a restart. Let's see how Lloydie deals with this.
Right, well, talk us through this. What does he have to do, and where and when?
He has to. Once he goes, he has to go. So he has to make sure, firstly, the safety car is far enough ahead before he pulls the pin. Personally, I would go as early as possible to spread everyone out, and it looks like that's what he's done. He's already gone. Look.
So Dan Lloyd in the Cupra accelerates up towards the left of Goddard's, and we are going to be back racing this time after that clear-up lap under the safety car. It extends things to 15 laps, and across the timing line we go. Back racing then, and Lloyd leads Butcher by 8/10 of a second. Butcher has still to be mindful of Aaron Taylor-Smith behind him. Chilton runs 4th on the road. Yeah,
good restart by Lloyd. Did manage to gain a little bit of a gap. You know, you'd have to say that Butcher must be in a very strong position here. You know, it's a factory Toyota car with greater resources by far than the Team Hard car. So you'd think Butcher ought to be in the best position here to claim his first victory of the year.
Absolutely right.
There's nothing like the sniff of a win to make someone defend like mad and try your very best. That's not to undermine Dan Lloyd. It's just that Rory Butcher probably does have slightly better equipment. Of course, those Toyotas with their new engines this year, it would also be a win for them.
Well, indeed, the Neil Brown Tube power unit. Right, down they come then. So Lloyd is being caught, isn't he? This is Rory Butcher's best chance of a victory. It's interesting, isn't it? Because normally this year we've kind of talked about Ricky Collard as being the trailblazer for the Toyota team, but if anyone's going to score the victory, it is team stalwart Rory Butcher. There he is in second place, and Dan Lloyd is under attack. Look, as they come down towards the hairpin. Aaron Taylor-Smith third has dropped back a little. Collard is still squabbling with Rowbottom further back, but yeah, Butcher now working out where he can make the move for the race lead. Lloyd it is, up front into the left of Goddard's. This is lap 9 out of 15. The race distance extended because of the safety car. Turkington tickling the tail of Rowbottom's Ford.
Yeah, just a little tickle there on the brakes, nothing deliberate, no harm, no foul. It would pay Butcher if he can to try and get past Lloyd quickly. He doesn't want the others catching up. Look at the entry speed. The entry speed, that Toyota was fantastic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Visibly quicker.
Both on the hybrid going down the hill, and Butcher was on the hybrid at the end of the previous lap, so he was quick past the pits. Down towards the old hairpin they go, and Dan Lloyd now is going to have a very, very long 6 laps to try to hang on to the race lead.
A very long 6 laps. You can already see that Cooper sliding around a little bit more, and all over the back, rubbing the back and forcing Lloyd to defend very hard. Will we get a switch back for Butcher? Maybe get, this sort of defensive driving is exactly what's going to allow Aaron Taylor-Smith up onto the back of them very quickly.
So Dan Lloyd leads out of copies. Butcher being held up a little bit. The Astra in third is coming. Look, this is Butcher's chance. Is he going to be on the hybrid? No, he's not. He's going to slot back in as they come into the S's. Taylor-Smith is almost back with them. Then 3 for the lead. It was 1.3 seconds covering the top 3 at the start of the lap. Butcher might well think about a dive to the inside line of the Melbourne hairpin, but I'm not convinced he's close enough as they drop down towards the corner. Lloyd hangs on to position. Butcher goes a little bit wider in, and Taylor-Smith is right there behind. Look, 3 for the lead. Discount Chilton in 4th because of his penalty.
Yeah, he didn't manage to make any progress. Lloyd actually is very good round this last section through the chicane and the 2 hairpins. It's sort of through the old hairpin and McLean's and Coppice where I think Butcher is quicker, and out of Redgate.
So over the timing line, half a second between Lloyd and Butcher, and just under half a second between Butcher and Taylor-Smith. More battles to be resolved lower down the order. Got Rowbottom ahead of Collard then. That's 6th and 7th now, so Dan Rowbottom has gone through. And fair play to Jake Hill. The car might be a lot lighter than it started, and it might not handle as well, and it might look horrible, but it's still going, and it's still 9th.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that car figures with the ride height checks, where it's have to take one, but he's not in the top 3 anyway.
Tapping the tail of Ingram from Sutton there as the Ford had a bit more pace coming out of the old hairpin. So for the championship, remember, Ingram is taking points off Sutton. Might only be a notional gain, but a gain nonetheless as they head up towards McLean. So Collard goes out wide. There's the leader. It is still Lloyd. Butcher right behind him.
Yeah, Butcher, as I said, very quick through that section.
And Ingram fending off Sutton as he needs to for the championship. So Butcher thinks about a move against Lloyd, but the Cupra defends from the Toyota. Down they come. Heading into the S's, this lap 11 out of 15, and Lloyd positioning the car everywhere he can to try to stop Butcher thinking about a move up the inside. He's got more hybrid available still than Butcher. Rory's just used a little bit of it down towards the hairpin, and he's right on the back of Lloyd then as they come through the corner. Does he get a good exit? He does, but it's not quite good enough to put him alongside the team hard run Cupra Leon. Into the braking zone they come now, turn left through Goddard's up towards the timing line. That's Morgan, up through and past Chilton. Finally, he's done it, so he moves ahead of the penalised car. That was Adam Morgan in 4th spot.
Yeah, Morgan's going well in this race. Found some speed, definitely. And defending into Redgate, but I think he'll hold that position, will Adam Morgan.
Yeah, now the next one to come up and have a go at Chilton will be Rowbottom, and battle is on there, look, because Chilton comes back at Morgan. Adam has to go really defensive as Lloyd's car dances downhill. That's on the edge now.
It's really on the edge. And up the inside, throws it. Dan Rowbottom gets past Chilton. Chilton has to go wide into the gravel. That lets Collard through as well.
Does indeed. Ricky Collard round the outside, and this is Butcher's moment, is it, to try to make the move for the race lead. He's right there on the tail of Lloyd, goes to the inside, heading up towards Coppice, pulls back in again. Aaron Taylor-Smith tantalisingly close, but just not quite able to make that move against Butcher.
But Lloyd is driving fantastically. He's really using his nous to just position the car when he has to, and off going wide is Rowbottom.
So gives the place to Collard. He worked hard to get ahead of the Toyota earlier on, but he ran wide out of copies. Drops back behind the Toyota then as they flick through the S's. Bit of smoke out of Rowbottom's car there. Has he got a problem?
No, he hit the tyres on the left-hand side, and I think his car's hobbled. He hit the tyres very hard.
Oh, you're right.
He was kicking him, so he's got a puncture, I think, or is he just a tyre rubbing on the bodywork? But that's a lot of damage. He was kicking himself for that mistake made out on the exit of McLean's, and then clobbered the tyres at the chicane on the turn-in.
I think he's just got himself up past Chilton, hasn't he? So, despite the damage, he's still going, still circulating. Leaders go by, 12 laps done, 3 to go. Lloyd leading by just half a second from Butcher. Taylor Smith is there in third. Dan Lloyd with all of this pressure. There you've got Dan Rowbottom in the Bristol Street Motors with Accelerate sandwich, and he has got a problem.
Yeah, he's got a puncture.
Yeah.
That's why he couldn't turn in. Yeah.
More bodywork is shed, and Robo's race effectively done and dusted. He'll limp to the pit lane. Disappointing that after a promising run earlier on, and there is another battle-scarred car thanks to the tyre stacks.
Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to be too controversial. Apparently I've been too controversial already today, and I have mentioned tyre stacks, so I won't go there again.
Yes, I've packed your soapbox away for the day. You can't have it back. Tom Ingram dropped a couple of places as well, but equally Jake Hill has dropped back, it seems, as they make the run up the hill. So where does that put us? Ingram, yes, Ingram now trying to push forward again and gets up the inside of Osborne, taking Hill with him. So a big shuffle around as people are trying to avoid the slowing Rowbottom forward at Redgate. So Lloyd, Butcher, Taylor Smith, Morgan remains the top 4. Their look is Ingram. And Jake Hill dives up the inside of teammate BMW Stephen Jelly that forces him off the road. That was robust.
It was indeed, wasn't it? And talking of robust, down at the Melbourne hairpin. So it continues.
Sutton goes ahead of Chilton, and up the inside of both comes Turkington. Meanwhile, still, somehow, unaffected by all of this, Lloyd leads the way. So that is Sutton coming through. He's ahead of Turkington now, so Ash is making progress. Lloyd leading, Butcher second, margin is stretched a touch. Taylor Smith third, Morgan fourth, Collard is fifth, Sutton sixth, Turkington seventh, Chilton is eighth, Ingram is down to ninth, 10th is Hill, 11th is Osborne, then it's Jelly, Watson, Moffat from the back, and Gamble. And
2 laps to go, just 2 laps to go for Dan Lloyd to pull off a remarkable victory for Team Hard and Cupra.
And there he is, coming out of the old hairpin. And Rory Butcher dropped back slightly last time.
Well, I think he's got it. I honestly think Dan Lloyd's got it if he doesn't make a mistake.
It'll be a very nervous Tony Gillam and the rest of the team watching all of this from their pit box as the cars now make the climb up through Schwantz Curve, heading to McLean's. That's Sam Osborne, who has put himself ahead of Stephen Jelly, 11th and 12th they run. There are the leaders. Rory Butcher perhaps building up for one more push, and he is certainly pushing. Look at this, the gap is coming down and down and down. He hasn't looked to the inside of the S's. Taylor Smith can't go with them. He's got to defend third place from Morgan. Rowbottom pits, leaders out of the S's. There's the Grand Prix loop this time to finish, and then one more complete lap, and Lloyd now is under massive pressure from Butcher.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a lead, didn't he, before they got round 2. Butcher goes very wide there. That's not going to help his cause. He had a good little lead starting the last lap, but Collard's so quick round that top section.
So Lloyd from Butcher coming nose to tail onto the pit straight. So Dan Lloyd has got to hang on in there for one lap. He's like a sponge. He soaks up all of the pressure thus far. Only another 2.5 miles to do it, Dan. Can it be done? Down to Redgate. The advantage has halved from 8/10 to 4. Aaron Taylor Smith, though, look, coming back at Butcher as well. That's not what Rory needs, but it is what Lloyd needs to try and distract Butcher, give him something else to squabble for.
Yeah, let's see how he starts the lap with a good little bit of a gap, doesn't he? But as the lap unfolds, so Rory Butcher, who's quicker through the old hairpin, gets ever closer.
This will be a 5th win for Dan Lloyd. He has won for Accelerate, he won for BTCC Racing, and there Taylor Smith has a rather cheeky thought about getting up the inside of Butcher. Doesn't work for him. But the Vauxhall has still got pace, and Lloyd's got a problem. Oh. Dan Lloyd on the last lap has got a big problem. He's off the road, and Butcher takes over the lead. Has something broken on Dan Lloyd's car because it suddenly snapped away. And within about 4 corners of the flag, Dan Lloyd is off the road, and Rory Butcher is set for a win.
The rear suspension broke, a rear toe link or something broke. Unbelievable. On the final lap of the race, where he'd driven so beautifully. My heart goes out to Dan Lloyd and the whole Team Hard team. That is a cruel blow. The racing gods have smitten him down at the worst possible moment.
And so it is going to be, for the first time this season, a win for Toyota Gazoo Racing UK, for Rory Butcher, for the Speedworks Motorsport team, the Toyota Corolla at Toyota's home circuit in the UK, near its Derby base. He's going to win. Rory Butcher out of the last corner. He inherits the win. He's in front when it matters. Checker flag at the ready, and Rory Butcher wins to a delighted team. It's a 1-4 as well, because with Taylor Smith second and Morgan third, Collard bags fourth, fifth is Sutton, sixth Turkington, seventh is Ingram, Hill eighth, Osborne ninth, Jelly 10th. But poor old Dan Lloyd, because he rather deserved that win.
He certainly did deserve it. He'd driven absolutely beautifully. And through that all, Ash Sutton managed to pull himself up to fifth, ahead of Turkington, Ingram and Hill. Now just watch this. He turns in here, everything's fine, and then as the car there, he feels it go. He feels the car go, and he just can't even steer it.
No.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
So Dan Lloyd's race run here from another angle. It sort of fishtails left and right, and then it goes there, slides off. It's nothing he can do. You don't need to say anything over that, do you?
There's nothing you can say, because, you know, a team as small as Team Hard that sort of work hard to get to every race, survive and make every penny go as far as it possibly can. You know, the emotion there, you feel the highs and the lows in motorsport, and that unfortunately is one of the lows.
And drama also post-race for Aidan Moffat, who has had to stop for a bit of attention. Looks like he's got some grass in the front, so maybe he's been overheating. So the beneficiaries out of all of that, Rory Butcher, Toyota Gazoo Racing UK, Speedworks Motorsport, not to take anything away from that team, which has worked so hard for a maiden win, but you have to feel for Dan Lloyd and Team Hard. Rory Butcher wins round 24 of the championship ahead of Aaron Taylor-Smith, who is the winning independent, Adam Morgan third ahead of Ricky Collard and then Ash Sutton. Sixth, Colin Turkington ahead of Tom Ingram with Jake Hill eighth, Sam Osborne ninth, and running out the top 10, Stephen Jelly. 11th, Andrew Watson ahead of Tom Chilton and then George Gamble. It's Dexter Patterson 14th at the last point, and Ronan Pearson after his pit stop, good recovery, ahead of Mikey Doble and Michael Crease. Then Aidan Moffat, Jade Edwards 19th and Nick Halstead in 20th spot. Dan Lloyd notionally 21st ahead of Jack Butel. We also lost Dan Rowbottom, we lost Josh Cook, and we lost Daryl De Leon also. High drama as we expected in race 3. We didn't expect quite that outcome though. It all means that 42 points is the gap between Ash Sutton and Tom Ingram in the championship. Jake Hill is third ahead of Colin Turkington. Dan Camish has hung on to fifth ahead of Josh Cook. Ricky Collard's up to seventh, and then Dan Rowbottom eighth. Adam Morgan is ninth, and Rory Butcher is in 10th in the championship after his win. Dan Lloyd can't believe it. I don't think we can quite believe what we've just seen either, but poor old Dan Lloyd, so disappointed, trying to explain exactly what happened. We might be able to find out more when we come back to Donington after the break.